Normandy, France. Hello everybody, it's Tom here from the Company Code, author, educator and public speaker. Today I'm going to speak about my experience of a trip to northern France which I partaked about 10 years ago. Yes, this was really for somebody that was very dear to me, my grandfather, Stanley, who's no longer with us. For those of you like myself who are very close with the family, you really appreciate what the older generation has done for you in terms of what they did in World War II, and also not only that, how they've moulded your own parents to be the people that they are, and therefore been a big part of your life, you know. And my granddad was my best friend. There's no two ways about it, and he's done a lot for me in his life and a lot for my family, and I felt that the need to contribute here was really huge. Now, just going to set the scene for you. This isn't just about my granddad's personal journey. I'm going to talk about the location that we went to because it was very, very beautiful. What you must understand is that part of the world in World War II became a focal point because of obviously D-Day and the invasion of Dunkirk. It really was a very big attack point for the German army, and obviously the Allied forces had to defend it. So it will come up a lot in this. Don't let it put you off. Even if you don't like war, I don't particularly like war, but it's history and we shouldn't hide from it, even if it's painful. It is part of what we've become, what we've come from. So we must acknowledge this in history, even if it is horrific, okay? Think of it like a scar. It's there, it hurt, it's a reminder, but we can't forget it, but we can try and move forward, yeah? So, my granddad had many siblings. He was one of 15 children, okay? One family before World War One and one family after. For C, he was part of the second family, born in the early 1920s. He was very friendly with a guy who went and fought over in France, okay? My granddad was RAF and his friend was in the army, you know, foot soldier. They both signed up together, and my granddad would say that this man was like a brother to him. Bear in mind, my granddad had 10 brothers. So for him to turn around and say to someone who's not his flesh and blood, he's like a brother, that's high respect, that's high praise. As is the sad reality of war and what it does, my granddad's friend was killed in that part of the world, in Normandy. He said to me that he'd never forget the look that the man's mother gave him when he returned, and he didn't, you know. He says it's something I could never get out of my head, the image, you see. And after finding out what happened, obviously breaking down in tears, very sad, he told me, I've got to go, I've got to see it, I've got to lay that ghost to rest. So it did really become about me and my granddad, me helping my granddad to kind of exercise a demon, shall we say, or put to rest a past thing that he had to do. Now, he could at any point have gone with my grandmother, who died before my granddad. She said she couldn't tolerate being in that environment, knowing what had gone on. And I've got to be honest, when you go there, you'd find it hard not to be upset, okay? Because it's moving, these sort of things. So I said, yes, we'll go. We booked a coach trip. Now, it's not the most comfortable by coach, I've got to be honest. Any holiday isn't comfortable by coach. Being hours and hours in on a coach it's not my idea of great travelling, to be honest. Some people love it. As much as I'm a bit frightened of flying, believe it or not, I would prefer to be up in the air than on a coach for hours on end. Sure enough, we jumped on the coach. It was June time, around the time of the D-Day landings, to coincide with the anniversary. And got on the coach, drove down through the Midlands, onto the Channel Tunnel, over the way there to France. France as a country is very vast from what I could see, and also very green. I mean, masses of green. Where I live up here in the Midlands is quite green and fairly widespread, but from what I can see, France is even wider spread and even more green. It did remind me of being back in England, but it was more like a bigger version of, I suppose, similar sort of landmass. Not that they'd like me to admit that. So what was Normandy like as a place? Well, it's not typically French, because what you have to understand is that the tribe that lives in France, in that part of France, and it's in the title, Normandy, they were Norwegian, they were Vikings. So a Viking tribe overthrew that part of the world and took it over. Okay, that same Viking tribe, the Normans, also conquered my country, England, very, very long time ago. Okay, over 1,000 years ago now. Point I'm trying to make here now is that we have a country that has been occupied by this other tribe. What you have is not probably what you call typically French. What you do have is its own culture. They were quite friendly people from what I could see. And yeah, really connected in that respect. They're very respectful. I got to savour some of the food now. I'm not talking about frog's legs or anything like that, but I'd never eaten venison before, and that was on the menu. So I had to partake in that, and I have to say, it's very different and very much worth trying as well. So the couple of weeks that we were out there, or the week should I say that we were out there, was just one big long coach trip. We would tour pretty much all of the different areas of Normandy that were affected by World War II. We visited British, Canadian, American, and the German cemeteries, even the enemy. I cannot lie to you and say that that's a pleasant thing. It's not. Seeing rows and rows and rows of graves is, while you're proud of their sacrifice and you thank them with everything you have, it's not nice to see. You know, you're looking at a gravestone, some of them don't even have names on because they were unnamed. Some of them, the age is like 14 years old, and they went to war to fight for their country. They weren't even men. They weren't even grown men. And they died like that. And that is a real slap in the face, to be honest, when you think of how easy we've got it now, despite some of the hardship we've gone through the last couple of years with the COVID pandemic. But honestly, you really appreciate just how lucky you are when you see masses of graves like that, and you find that you're standing over someone's grave who's 14 years old and there's no name on it. You don't even know if their relatives know, you know, that sort of thing. So it was very, very fascinating, you know, to see all these different things. Went to Pegasus Bridge and saw, you know, where the RAF dropped in with the planes. Obviously my granddad being ex-RAF, he was in it all. We got to see a couple of bombers, like big ships, aeroplanes. You walk around some of these sites and there's still, the ground's uneven from where, you know, a bomb's gone into the ground. And even now, after all these years, they've not made the ground level. Maybe they're concerned there's still a bomb in the ground. I don't want you to be put off by what I'm saying here. I'm giving you the honest truth. If this is something that does interest you, even though it's a bit horrific, go. If not, fine. I'm pretty sure there's other things you can do in this part of the world. It does seem to have a strong culture, and there is decent weather, good food, and a warm welcoming atmosphere from the locals. So do not be put off by the fact that most of what I'm talking about today is about World War II. I went to one particular place and my granddad and another veteran was awarded a medal. That medal was from the people of that village to say thank you to anyone that fought in World War II. Now bear in mind, my granddad was based in Burma in India, fighting the Japanese, and the other guy that was with us, he was also fighting the Japanese, and he was a naval, he was on a ship. So neither of them were actually based in that part of the world fighting that fight. But the fact that they'd been involved in the war, and this was this village's way of saying thank you so much. So yeah, he was awarded with the medal, and you can appreciate he was made up, very proud. See, Grandad always used to say, I'm not a hero, the ones that died are. I came back, they didn't. That doesn't make me a hero, I was just doing my job. It's a humble way of looking at it, and I can only respect what he thought, you know. So after a full week near enough of touring around Normandy, my granddad got to speak to the tour guide, and we found the cemetery where my granddad's friend's body was. And as you can appreciate, for him, a very emotional moment. For me, his grandson, I did what I had to do, and then I stepped back and let him have his time at the last lying resting place of his best friend. He got back in his wheelchair because Grandad was overweight and also couldn't walk much, and that was it. Didn't really say much, but I could feel the weight of the world was lifted off his shoulders, and he was happy. If you have any interest at all in that sort of history and the impact it had on that part of the world, I thoroughly recommend that you go to Normandy. You will learn a lot about history. All right, it's not the glorious history that maybe Hollywood films paint. War is not glorious. It's wasteful, and it's horrific at times. And there's no good really to come of it. But there are stories of bravery, there are stories of courage that just absolutely lights up your heart. And you're proud to be human, even though it's an inhumane thing that's going on. That's my point, that's my take on it really. But definitely as a place, Normandy, if you have interest in that sort of thing, go. You will see through the stories and through the different places you visit how that really did change that place forever. And even now, how many years after, it's still there, and it will be for generations. And you know, it's a reminder to us all that freedom isn't free, you know, and we shouldn't take it for granted ever. Okay. Second of 3 videos this week. Thank you all ever so much for listening. I really appreciate your time and energy spent on my channel. This is my second video, as I said. Please put down in the comment section below, do you have any interest in this topic? Is it something you'd like to do, like a tour of a country on a coach as well? Does that appeal to you, or is it something you'd like to avoid? Remember to hit that subscribe button down below and leave me a thumbs up and a like, and let's hear that bell sign go ding dong so you know when my next content's out. Till then, I want to say thank you all ever so much for watching. Much appreciate your time and energy spent on this channel. Thank you all. I'll be back in a couple of days. Bye for now.